So, you were telling me that you really feel like this is a whole Mitchell, Avery, Yancey in terms of like the education system, all that stuff's like a kind of a bubble.
Yeah, like it's almost like you go back in time, because it's like the values are different. They're more kind of traditional and old school, kind of more when we grew up, it was similar here because we grew up here. But like even in Waynesville, we were there for 6, 7, 8 years, and I could see a difference from the time we moved there to when we left. And I mean, it's just more and more and more progressiveness pushing out into everything. It's in the school systems, it's in businesses, it's everything.
I got a question. Do you think that the whole, like, what do they call it, the woke ideology or whatever, this whole wokeness thing, do you think it's an intentional thing, or do you think it's just? I've always wondered that, like, because people talk about this all the time, and they talk about it in terms of like this is an intentional push or whatever. I
mean, you start getting into conspiracy theories and stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of puzzle pieces that you could put together to make a picture.
Right.
Whether or not that picture's accurate or not, who knows? Right. The powers that be are the only ones that do know. But I mean, there's just so much stuff that's going on right now. I feel like there was a massive shift, and I don't know how people are going to take this, but Obama's first administration, I feel like that's kind of where it started, and there was a big turn there, and it seemed like everybody got more divided in every way, racially, sexually, religiously. And it's just continued. It's like they kicked the snowball off the hill, and it's just been rolling and getting bigger and bigger.
Well, it does feel like that, don't it?
Yeah.
Why do you? This is another question I have. What was it about Obama that was so divisive? Because I'm not sure that it was just like he's black.
I don't think so.
Do you think that?
I mean, I really, in terms of policy, I didn't see any difference between Bush and Obama. They were essentially, and that's where the uniparty comes into play. I mean, you've got your neolibs and neocons, and they're two sides of the same coin. I don't know. I would say it goes back even further than Obama, like before him. I mean, you could really get into the weeds when you start talking about like postmodernism and some other different philosophies. But deconstructing truth, and stuff like that.
It's like, I just go back to that. Like, every time people talk about it, it's like it's an intentional thing, or at least from right wing media.
Yeah.
Or from the typical players, your Alex Joneses, you're all the ones that you hear that are up front and like setting the like narrative or whatever for right wing like stuff. But I've always grappled with that. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
But see, like you mentioned Alex, and to me, Alex is one of those that's really far over there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
And
I agree with that.
But less and less so every day.
When you lose everything you got.
Right.
He's been proven right a lot about a lot of things.
Yeah,
yes. Which is scary.
Yeah.
It is.
And I go back to that same thing. It's like the scariest things to me are that people like Alex Jones, who to anybody that's looking with like a seems crazy, but then he's right. And that Donald Trump, of all people, Donald Trump is the one saying, no, we don't. The goal is nobody needs to die. Like when they ask him about the whole Ukraine, like Rushmore, it seems like all of these people that are these very divisive figures and these very like upfront figures are the only ones that are making any sense. Sometimes. And I mean, maybe that's just me. I mean, of course, it depends on what you're looking at and who you're listening to, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, so I was going to mention that because, he mentioned you've got the far sides on both sides. But unfortunately, that's the majority of what you see and hear.
Yeah.
There's so many, polls and all this stuff that talk about how the majority of America is somewhere in the middle. But you don't see that when you turn TV on or the radio on. It's all either you're over here or you're over here, and
you're with us or against us.
There's 3 people in the middle, and that's it. But that's not the truth.
No, that's true. I think we're way closer together than we want to realize, or that we do realize.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot that could be said about this stuff. It's it's almost like, as far as the woke ideology is, you know, I guess the term that's being used now, but this kind of like neo-Marxist, and it's neo-Marxism.
Yeah, sure.
This neo-Marxist,
and
ideology.
Obama was for sure a Marxist.
See, I don't know. Was he? I don't know.
I think he was. I mean, if you listen to him talk, at least in the way that he presented what he wanted to do, it was very Marxist. Now, I don't know how much of that got passed legislatively.
I guess I didn't see him as any, like, especially authoritarian.
No.
I didn't see that.
But sometimes authoritarianism, it's not authoritarianism, it's just the small increment steps towards it.
Yeah. It goes back to the gun argument, the Second Amendment rights, and they're not going to come out and be like, we're going to ban all guns. Right. They're going to start with automatics, and then they're going to go to magazine capacity, and then they're going to go to bump stocks, and then they're going to go to, well, you can only own semi-fire weapons, and it's a progressive, because they know if they come out and they're like, oh, we're doing this, like there'd be revolt.
Right.
Like, the country wouldn't stand for it. But it's the whole frog in the boiling pot kind of scenario. You turn it up a little bit at a time, that frog will sit there and boil to death without realizing that what's happening.
I used to think that. I used to be on the same page, but I'm not so sure anymore, because a lot of the things that the both parties have done in power are so over the top insane.
I think they're both in on it.
I'm just like, I think that we're so, Americans especially, are so caught up in our consumeristic, gluttonous luxury lifestyles, and we are, as much as we talk about the economic woes of small towns, we're still better off, like, in terms of our lifestyle and the way we live than anybody was 200 years ago.
But see, I'll tell you,
I don't think we would revolt. I really don't. I don't think America would.
But you got voices that are saying that. I mean, I watched, after Tucker Carlson went and interviewed Vladimir Putin,
right?
But he was on.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, you got to watch that. It's pretty good. It's basically half of it. About an hour and 15 minutes of it are Putin giving a lesson on, like, 13th century
Russian history.
Yeah, Russian history. I mean, he really just goes off in the weeds, like, on this stuff for a while. But anyway, after he interviewed him, he was on Lex Friedman's podcast, and Lex was
that was a good one.
He pushed back on him because when he was over there too, one of the things that he did, and I think this was where Lex was kind of trying to go in at him a little bit, was like, not only did he interview Putin, but he went to like one of these beautiful subway stations in Moscow, and was basically asking the question, why don't we have stuff that looks like this? I mean, it's this gorgeous, like, 18th century,
like you could eat off the floor.
19th century. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place, and it's clean. There's no homeless. There's no bums shitting on the streets. There's no, and then he goes to a grocery store. And he's like, and I think this one was a little more understandable than even the subway station, is that, we've been told that all these sanctions that we have against Russia are doing all this, it's crippling their economy or whatever. Well, he goes and, like, gets like what he feels like is an average, like, meal for like a family of 4 for a week, average food for a week. And then he compares that price to adjust, for currency and all that stuff, and it's way less. I don't remember the exact numbers, but let's say it's $300. It was like $179. And then he's going around showing, well, hey, we've been told that they don't have they can't get any of this. Well, here's all these imported goods. It's basically anything you could want. It's like a modern supermarket.
Well, there's a lot of it's propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
It goes every direction.
But, I think where Lex was trying to push back on it was like, why would you go and do that or whatever? And what he said was, getting back to what your point was that he said that you know, what I'm trying to show is like, we shouldn't accept just, oh, well, the price of freedom is we have to have bums, you know, crapping on and pissing on the streets, and nothing can be pretty anymore and nothing can be nice anymore. Like, look at this. Here's modern day Russia, and it's gorgeous.
But how do we solve that?
I don't know. And that's the thing. And the question he kept asking was like, what's the price of freedom? Does the price of freedom just mean we have to accept whatever and we can't have anything nice? And I thought that was a great point, actually.
Well,
you know?
like, there's so much that we just accept now as just part of life, like inflation.
Yeah.
That's not right. The price of goods should not keep increasing exponentially.
Yep.
And the value of our money decreasing exponentially. But we just accept it as an inevitability.
Well, so, you know, we talk about is it on purpose? And, you know, I think a lot of it
absolutely.
is to drive the dollar down so they can roll out the digital currency.
But I think when you start talking in those terms, what it does is it necessitates a boogeyman at that point. And so then it becomes like, oh, it's George Soros, or oh, it's whatever. Like, is that really the case? I guess that's what I was asking you originally, is do you feel like it's orchestrated?
I do. I honestly do. And I mean, the thing that really, like the one that really just kind of solidifies that idea to me is like, you look at our food, right? Like there are, I think, 40 something different foods that you can only find in America, because every other country in the world has banned them because they know
poison.
They're literally poison to humans. And then you go, well, why would our government allow that? Right? Like, why would they let the FDA be approving stuff that they know is killing Americans?
But they're more than fine to put a shot in you that they have absolutely no idea whether it works.
Well, so this is what happens when you have big government in bed with big business. Okay, we don't live.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We don't live in a capitalist society. We live in oligarchy. We live in an oligarchy where you have a handful of massive corporations that control every single item that we purchase, everything we consume, and everything we consume. And it doesn't matter if it's media, food, drink, drugs, anything that we consume that we put in our minds and bodies, controlled by a handful of large corporations, and they're in bed with the federal government.
And it's known. You know, I mean, that's the weird part, is it's not even. They're not even like,
they don't hide it. No,
they're like,
it's
hey,
out there.
Here's $1 million Republican. Here's $1 million Democrat. Whoever wins, we've got you. Like,
that's great.
But
I think you're right. I think that's the answer. Is it's not even. I think there are a handful of bad actors.
Well,
I think there are people that don't necessarily have the best interests of of America at heart. Like people like your George Soroses and stuff like this. Not because I think he's necessarily the boogeyman or anything, or necessarily wants. But that is an entirely different vision.
Well, to me, it all comes
of
back
what it means to be an American.
What if George Soros is a psyop? What if he exists solely to take our attention off the fact that Washington, D.C. is a feeding trough for people who get elected into positions, who use it as a feeding trough. The whole goal of them getting into Washington is so they can get contracts for their buddies, for their family, and it sets them up for life financially.
I mean, I remember when I realized that, like, something weird's going on, and it was when I was still in the Marine Corps. We had just got back from Afghanistan, and while we were over there, I was with the utilities platoon, and we'd been out there 2-3 different rotations, and while we were out there, we were building a road. That was our main mission, was to build this road. So you've got a ton of military, government employees who have been highly trained, who have all the equipment, who have all the materials, and Camp Lejeune decided they were going to expand some roads and put up some new buildings and stuff. And so one of the roads that they were expanding was literally like 300 yards from our entire utility section, like utilities, HE, Motor T, all of them right there. And it was hired out to contractors. And by law, they have to put up signs that say, what the project is and how much it costs. And I mean, roads can be expensive, sure. But like, there was never a sign that didn't end without $1 million. You know what I mean? And it wasn't usually one; it was multiple.
Sure.
Right, and you're like, well, why are we paying
300 yards of road for?
Well, no, it's only 300 yards from the people that you're already paying that have the know-how, that have the stuff, right, that can do it, and you're already paying them their wages because they're in the military. But instead, we're going to keep paying these guys because they're in the military, and then. My cousin Jimmy, he owns whatever company,
right.
And so I'm going to help him get this contract, and he's going to net $4 million off of a road that should take $200,000 to make.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's when I was like, okay, so this doesn't make any sense. Like, what's happening here? And it all just comes back to the political,
So is that the
filling
first
people's
time
pockets.
you saw in real time the military-industrial complex working?
Oh God, no. So I was an 0411.
I will thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm not anti-veteran at all, but I am definitely anti-military-industrial complex.
Oh, I get that. I understand that
100%.
completely. I was an 0411, so I worked in logistics, and so I worked a lot with the supply guys and stuff like that. And when I started getting a little bit of rank and some decision making power and stuff like that, I would go over once a year, and we'd sit down at the end of our fiscal year or a month or two before the end of our fiscal year, and me and the supply officer would sit down and start building the budget for the next year. And every single year, without fail. So there's these people called comptrollers, and they control the flow of money in the military.
Sure.
And so without fail, we'd in the last 2 weeks of the fiscal year, we'd always get a call. My supply officer would call and be like, "Hey, Wantz, we've got $800,000. It has to be spent by now. All of our money's been pulled. Like we've stopped maintenance, we've stopped everything because everything's getting tight, and they're seeing what needs to go where. And they'll be like, "We got $800,000. You got any corrective maintenance stuff?" Because that was always priority. And I was like, "No, we're good. Okay. Is there any preventative maintenance stuff?" It's like, "Yeah, just some little nicks and that. We ain't gonna spend that much money." And they're like, "Okay, get a roster of all the staff NCOs in the battalion and order them a pair of Oakley sunglasses and a Gerber, a Benchmade Gerber, and something else. Until we eat up that money." Because of the way the industrial complex or the military complex works is we show a need for that money because we spent it. Now we spent it on bullcrap, right? But we showed a need for it, which means next year when we're building our budget, we can be like, "See, we need more money, right? Because at the end of the year we spent that extra $800,000, so let's build this budget up more because we need it." But we really don't, and there's a lot of waste.
That's the way government works all the way around.
Yeah,
it is.
They told me on that one, when they, we got all these water problems in Spruce Pine or whatever. When I was asking around about that, I was told that. And I think Philip said this on the podcast. Yeah. And kudos to him for saying it because it's just the raw facts of it. He said part of the reason we have all these boiled water advisories, he said probably most of the time it's not really necessary, but the more you do them, the more it shows need to the state to allocate money to it. So I mean, and so that's just the metastasizing nature of government right there, in all sorts, in the military, and it's not just forget the military industrial complex. To me, sometimes it's the government industrial complex, and the military is just a part of it.
It is
because it never shrinks.
Never.
When's the last time you ever seen them be like, "I'll tell you what we're doing. We're going to wipe out a lot of these old antiquated laws." Laws are always made and never repealed.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. The power is always given and never taken back.
Yeah.
It's like if you're down in Florida, you have to walk your alligator on a leash.
Yeah.
Because it's still a law.
Right.
I mean, that's probably if I lived in Florida, that's definitely something that would probably pertain to me.
Right. Yeah.
I would be one of the people.
You would definitely have an alligator.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had the room for it now, I would have an alligator.
I don't know. It's, sometimes I think too, like bringing it back down to kind of the small town thing is, you see a lot of this, whatever you want to call it, the woke stuff, this stuff has eaten the big cities alive now, right? When it's eating them alive, I hear it from from my people that are building houses here. "Oh, we just love it here. It's just so untouched. It's not like where I came from."
Yeah.
I hear that endless amounts of times per week.
Right. Here's the problem, though. The people move out of places where they've destroyed.
Exactly where I'm going.
And then they come and vote the same people and the same policies that led to that.
That's where I'm going. Yep. And it's like this. I tell you what it's starting to do. It's starting, again, to metastasize out of big cities. And and going back to what I asked you originally, like, you know, it seems like I hear that a lot. It's like Mitchell, Yancey, Avery. It's a secluded place. We're in the mountains. We're historically secluded. We always have been. And it's like this is like the last bastion. And more I feel like that. And I don't know. It's just an observation I made.
But one of the things I noticed as far as what you're talking about, the divide and how divided we are as Americans, one area that I feel like we're really divided, and it is maybe justified and maybe needs some looking into, is the laws and policies that work in big cities don't necessarily work in rural areas. And there, I think, is where a huge divide is. You have a lot of the ruling class are in these isolated bubbles in big cities, and a lot of the people who are involved in this woke ideology, gender ideology, all this stuff are from larger cities. They're a lot of them are encapsulated in these bubbles, and they can have it, but this does not work here. I don't think it works anywhere. But
that's what I was starting to say.
A good instance is gun laws. You know, gun laws, which I don't think any gun law works because you can't legislate morality. And all you're doing is create anything. Anytime you criminalize anything, you're creating a vacuum that is going to be filled in the market by. You're creating a black market for it. And then it becomes dangerous and it's not regulated at all. It's the wild west, which is what you see in a lot of larger cities because they have these strict gun laws. Well, that's fine. They still take Chicago, for example.
Perfect example.
Chicago has extremely strict gun laws and has probably the most, I don't know, you'd have to.
They have the strictest gun laws in the country.
And then on top of that, the most gun violence, the most handgun violence of anywhere in the world.
Did you see that video recently of those guys just on the street, like firing like Uzis and stuff into the sky? And they're like, "Oh, this is Chicago." That's crazy.
It is.
I don't know.
It is. Oh man, I watched a really interesting video last night on YouTube. Have you ever heard of Moon, the YouTube channel Moon? I'll send you guys both this video. It's worth a watch. It's not a good. It doesn't show a good trajectory we're headed towards, but I think it's a very realistic view of where we're headed and a very good, dispassionate analysis of our issues in America specifically as compared to the rest of the world. And I mean, it's not good. We're not headed to good places, guys. We're really not.
No.
Do you feel like there's a backlash?
I feel like that things are starting to turn around a little bit, especially, and here's where it really amped up on the backlash. I won't say a backlash, but there's an awakening.
Well, it's maybe. Just the
gender ideology. When you start pushing gender ideology on children in schools, and I don't care what anybody says. Well, I do care what anybody says. My mind is open to change with new evidence, but it's happening. It is happening. You have this new phenomenon, rapid onset gender dysphoria in young women and young girls. You have all this stuff. It's happening. That's when a lot of the country is starting to be like, hold on a minute. Something's not right here. Something's not right. When you have teachers and people in schools that are hiding things from the parents because of a political ideology, and that's what it is. Gender ideology is 100% political. That's no bueno. And a lot of the country is waking up to that fact and being like, no, this ain't it, guys. This ain't it.
Well, the part that gets me is that, like, I try to be very sensible. You know what I mean? Like, I'll try to look at everything and be fair about it. And look at it from this side, look at it from that side, see what like the motivation is behind it. And when you look at stuff like that, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, there's no sense to it. It's illogical, right? And you can prove it really easy if you go out and ask any random stranger, be like, "Hey, do you think that 12-year-olds should be able to get tattoos?" And they're like, "No, of course not. It's permanent, and that's going to be on their body forever." And they go, "Okay, do you think 12-year-olds should be able to have gender reassignment surgery?" Oh, I see what you did there.
Gender affirming care. See, we've couched it in these new nice little terms.
But I mean, it's.
I know.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm like, what? Why is this happening? And to me, because it is so illogical. Like, is it because it's something that's being pushed from behind? Or is it like, have we just got to that point
Maybe
to where
a little bit.
we just don't think about stuff
anymore? It may
anymore?
be some well-intentioned people who are misguided in combination.
I definitely think that's at least some of it.
Yeah.
I really do. Because let's just be real for a second.
I feel like
we
been
grew up
real
with,
this whole time.
We have been being real. But we grew up with some weird. I mean, we know each other from a long time back.
Dude, I'm a weirdo. I've been a weirdo.
I was kind of a weirdo. Andy was pretty normal. But
Yeah, I was a spastic kid.
we did cheerleading together, so we couldn't have been that normal. But,
Oh, so y'all were trans before it was cool?
Oh, dude, yes.
Well, see, perfect example, you know? We'd be at practice, right? And the wrestlers would come by and be like, sexual slurs, right?
Yeah, slurs.
And they'd be like, okay, let me think about this. I'm out here with a bunch of hot chicks. But I'm like, I'm doing this, and you're rolling around on the ground with other sweaty dudes putting each other's testicles in your face. Like, how does that, you know what I mean?
Not that wrestling doesn't hold its place.
No, it does.
Just saying, it's like
Maybe
you might want to wait and hold up and think about things for a second.
I mean, I get it. It's very manly.
Right? Sure,
right? But
it's a bit of projection.
But to have that kind of ideation because you're a dude and you're cheerleading, so obviously that means there's something.
We had
weird
a
with
lot of fun doing that, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it was awesome, dude. It was so easy too. Yeah. It was great, man. We had a good time doing that. But we grew up with. My point was, we grew up with a lot of weird people. Sure. And I feel like a lot of those people that kind of were of a different band, or not necessarily the mainstream band.
Your kids that don't fit in are
Josh, I can name 10 of the people that we grew up with that I guarantee you now would probably be trans.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Am I wrong? And I don't mean to be insensitive by saying that.
Because trans people do exist.
They do.
Trans people
I
do
agree
exist.
with that.
It is a very small portion of the population, but they do exist. Gender dysphoria is real. Body dysmorphia is real.
Yeah.
It is, and it is something that I would never wish on anybody because I could not imagine dealing with that. Yeah. But it is not, the way we're dealing with it is almost kind of homophobic, I think. Because I think here's my.
I think you got a point there.
Here's where I'm going with this, because it's not okay to just be gay anymore.
What do you mean?
So most of the people, especially boys who experience gender dysphoria to such a large degree, grow up to be homosexual males. Well, now we're transitioning them into women.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I've heard gay comedians. It's weird how comedians are like the forefront of thought in today's time, but it's the truth. I've heard several gay comedians say that exact same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's absolutely true. Like, absolutely true.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you're maybe attracted to the other sex. Yep. Well, you're definitely trans. Wait, what?
And here's the other thing. I'll tell you the other thing. Like, people that claim to be queer, it's just weird. Like, maybe don't necessarily conform to either sex. And again, like, why do we have to, and we do this with not just sexuality, but with everything.
The labels.
Have to put a label.
The labels.
Oh, you have to.
Labels.
But again, I think that goes back to you want to belong to a group and have a label. It's like, oh, we're the transsexuals, or
you want to belong.
We're gay, or we're lesbian, or well, you can't do this. We're straight.
You want to belong to something larger than yourself.
Yes, you want to belong to a group.
Where I feel like with the rise of atheism and the decline of religion, we've kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater, and this is replacing that.
I think that too. But you see, I think it played out in the Roman Empire.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, any kind of society that becomes obsessed with sexuality, gender, and just right now, just the amount of it's like
Do you really think that's though like a because a lot of your Roman and Greek thinkers were it was basically an atheistic belief system, right? Well, and that's where you saw that kind of stuff rise before, was it?
They were more like
polytheistic.
Polytheistic, I guess you're right.
Yeah, they had they had all their gods that do different things.
What about like Aristotle?
I don't know. I don't know.
All that type of stuff.
I don't know what their religious convictions were, but I do think that, dude, the gender ideology stuff specifically, it behaves just like a religion. It behaves like a cult. It behaves like a cult. And if you want any evidence of that at all, just look at how they treat the members of that group that disagree with them.
Yeah, the detrans thing is. I follow a couple of those people on X.
Oh man, we're gonna get so much heat for this.
Man. We got to be way more popular to talk about this stuff.
I know, right?
But it is true. I mean, it's there for everybody to look at. I mean, if anybody that's curious, go on Twitter or X and look up the detrans community. I mean, there's quite a few of them, and they are hated.
Yeah.
Hated, like maybe more than anybody I know on Twitter.
It's because it's a cult.
Yeah.
Well, see, you mentioned, I lost my train of thought about how it's, I lost it. It's gone.
All good.
Whatever.
It's all good.
But no, I don't know. I do think you have a point though with the religion thing. I think is when there's no.
We have this need within us to.
I think so.
To have a higher cause, some kind of higher meaning that's larger than us. Mm-hmm. And when you take religion out of the picture, that creates a vacuum, and it's going to get filled with another ideology.
Well, so to me, and it kind of ties back to the division piece too, and that's the thought I was trying to get to, is that a lot of it seems like people's ideologies have shifted away from a sense of community, right? Like the bubble that we live in, into a more self-indulgent, I'm most important, this kind of idea. And that with the trans movement and all that stuff is kind of, in my brain, is the same track, because it's went away from like, we've turned into a culture of do what feels good to you.
We have, and that's exactly what the Romans did before the fall of the Roman Empire.
Yeah. Is that just solely due to privilege, you think?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's solely
first world privilege.
Yeah. Well, that's the freedom.
Yeah. It's due to just the massive amount of comfort, technology, food, just the overabundance. And some of it is put on us too. I mean, we some of it we come by honestly, and some of it is put on us. Like going back to our food, our bread here. Did you know this? Our bread is pumped so full of sugar. American bread in other countries is classified as a confectionery.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, he's not joking. White bread literally is like 20, 30 grams of sugar.
Dude, it's insane. No other country in the world puts that much sugar ridiculous in their bread.
But see,
for no reason.
Coming back big circle, why? Right? Like, why is our government allowing this, right? And to me, there's a very clear finger that goes, well, you live in a country that healthcare is for profit. Mm-hmm. And these are the same people who are direct, like holding hands and skipping down the street with pharma, right?
Yep.
And who are controlling the politicians, right? And so if you live in that kind of society, well, they don't make any money if we're healthy.
Right.
So we need to be sick so that they can make more money.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, what does a vial of insulin cost in Europe? Anywhere but the United States. What is it now? It's $100 in the U.S.
Has it come down?
I don't know.
Let's look it up.
Look it up, yeah.
Because it was, so the patent expired. You remember that?
I do.
The patent expired, and that guy bought it up, and when he bought it up, he jacked it like tenfold the price. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, I'm going to die. Yeah. And he's like, too bad, baby.
Sorry.
My patent.
And this is one area that, one of many areas that my mind has changed over the years. Like, I used to be staunchly against single-payer health care. But, dude, if we have enough money, I mean, let's be real. If we have the money, the spare money to, don't even tell me.
It's bad.
Oh, my God.
It's really bad.
I was about to say, I knew it used to be way higher than $100.
Go ahead.
Okay, a vial of insulin in most countries, $8 to $10.
Yep.
Just take a stab at the U.S.
$700.
I'll go like $350.
$98.70.
Okay,
you
so
were
it's
pretty much
$100.
like
Oh, really?
$100.
Okay. So it has come down then.
So, you're acting like it's a good thing.
Well,
comparatively,
yeah.
yes, but yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
90% more
Yeah. For the
Than
same
everywhere
stuff.
else in the
than
world.
everywhere else in the world.
Yep.
So if we have enough money to subsidize wars like we do, why are we not providing health care? First world, top-notch health care.
And we could.
100% we could.
We absolutely could.
Yeah.
That's what I tell you. That opened my eyes in the pandemic when they just decided to start giving everybody money.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
When it wasn't no thing. It's just like, oh, here, just everybody give like
Here's $2,000.
yeah
For everybody.
We gave everybody in the country like $2,000. Everybody.
A couple times.
Yeah.
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 And to be quite honest with you, after like at first I was like, oh, go my hand out, like my right wing brain wants to think. But then I was like, wait a minute, okay, number one, this is our money to begin with, and then number two,
But they're going to
the
get it back.
economy was like just took off.
But they're going to get it back.
Oh, yeah.
And see,
they will
that's what I was
100%
seeing.
give it back.
When they started with those stimulus, I was like, why? Like, we don't need to boost the economy. Like, it's
pretty good.
It's coming along pretty well, And they're like, no, here we're gonna throw these stimulus checks. I'm like, y'all realize a few years down the road, this is all gonna come right back around and kick us right in our hind ends.
Here we are.
And here we are.
Inflation's crazy high.
Go to the grocery store, get a pound of ground beef, and it's $5 a pound. And you're like, what?
Yep. I said the same thing when the stimulus checks came. The same thing. I knew this was going to happen.
I don't know.
And I'm not an economist. I'm just a fat dude on the internet. That
But it
talks.
just makes common sense.
I knew this was going to happen.
It just makes common sense. Like our government is not just going to start throwing money and then not be like,
Well, even if that, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're not like, okay, give it back. When you increase, it's the law of supply and demand. When you increase the money supply, the value is going to go down, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. They
printed all this money for the stimulus, gave everybody in the country $2,000. Which, don't get me wrong, I was glad to get that $2,000. I was like, hell yeah, I got $2,000. I'm gonna do something with it. Cool, but we're paying for it tenfold now because a trip to the grocery store costs $400.
It's insane.
Trying to build a budget, like that's one of our biggest struggles. Is me and Megan are both teachers, and so trying to build a budget. We're down to one kid in the house, so boys can eat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Know about that, brother.
But trying to build that budget and just manage all the finances, it gets harder and harder. And then, especially like in Western North Carolina, you look at the rates of poverty. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like, there is a lot of poverty in Western North Carolina.
Yeah, there is.
When I was working at Western, or when I was going to school at Western, I was volunteering at the Colowee and Silva Community Gardens with Adam Bigelow, phenomenal guy, right? And he started sharing all these facts with me and stuff about how we're the richest country in America, but yet we have more kids starving to death every single night. We've got people on the streets that are starving to death. All the food that we grow, 40% of it doesn't even go to market. 40% of it never makes it to a market. It comes out of the field and goes in basically trash cans. But now there's these like secondary markets that are starting to pop up. But the reason for that is because the American consumer, if you're not going to go to the store and spend your hard-earned dollar on a bell pepper that's got a weird lump on it, you're going to get the one that looks nice. And so they just go ahead and cut all that stuff out to begin with. And so literally 40% of the food that we produce basically just goes straight into the trash. And then out of that 60, I don't remember the percentage, but it's another large percentage ends up going in the trash anyway because, we'll go get these massive plates and eat half of it and then throw the rest of it in the trash.
Yeah.
There's a secondary market for all kinds of stuff, not just food either. It's like, you got places like that Uplifting Deals in town. That's what they're doing, is doing that whole secondary. You got, I think about in Asheville, Hoppy Company. They're one that's been around forever doing those seconds, like foods and stuff like that. But what they get is the seconds of like all the organic stuff from like
really?
what used to be Earth Fare and Whole Foods and all that type of stuff. So it's more of like it's
bougie seconds.
Yeah. Go grocery for people who shop at Whole Foods. Yeah. But then you got, I mean, think about these places. You got all these places too now, like that Bin 5 or whatever. Have you seen that where it gets cheaper by the day? And it's all it is old Amazon returns and things like that. You got a plant right here that refurbishes stuff for Amazon. Half of that stuff goes into, I guarantee when it gets up there, it's inspected. They're like, this is not going to fly, and that goes into stuff like that. I mean, but it's crazy. It's like you're right, there's a whole secondary market just on things that we throw away or just aren't to our liking.
Well, and with a lot of stuff, like with the food, that's fairly recent. Like you go back 10 years, there wasn't secondary markets.
Yeah.
They didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was all just getting tossed.
Yeah. Hoppy was that was there when I lived in Swannanoa, and they had been in business for a long time doing that type of thing. But I think that was a very niche market for them because I think a lot of the stuff they got was from like Earth Fare, those local, chains or whatever. But it's just crazy to me that's the
state of affairs in America.
And that's where we get it in rural America. I mean, think about how long Go Grocery and some of them have been around here. Because people are poor.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you. So when I was working at Western, or when I was going to Western, one of my last semesters, I was one credit short. So I was like, all right, what am I going to take? Right. And I took a communications class. It was small team, I think small team communication or something like that, and team building or something. And we had to do a project where we had to pick a nonprofit and basically raise awareness for it. And so when our group got together, I was like, guys, I've already got it. We're golden, right? So we went down to the gardens and started getting some footage and stuff. I was the research guy, right? So I started researching the rates of poverty and stuff like that. And I don't remember what the line was, but it was something like a family of 4 that makes less than $20,000 a year, right? That's the line to denounce poverty, which is just unthinkable. Like, how's that possible?
That's not poverty. That's like,
well, here's the crazy
dying.
part.
Yeah, destitute.
Here's the crazy part, and I can't remember the term, but there's a term, and to qualify for it, you had to be twice under the poverty limit.
So, what year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
So I graduated in 18, I think. So it would have been the spring of 18, fall of 17, somewhere in there.
Okay. So $20,000 a year, then yeah.
That's still impossible.
Oh, it's still impossible.
Yeah, there's no way.
But to qualify for a lot of the programs and stuff, you had to be twice under that. So you had to be making like less than $10,000 for a family of 4. Like, I don't understand how that's possible. Even if you only eat 99-cent ramen, you can't make it.
Well, I'll tell you why it's possible. Government benefits.
Well, yeah, but if you don't meet that limit, you don't qualify for a lot of them, right? But then I started.
So they're even taking into account like government benefits. So, yeah. Oh, that okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so,
all right.
Well, then I started looking into the numbers, and oh my goodness, like it was just ridiculous. Like
crazy.
1 in 4 children, I think, in America total, 1 in 4 children go to bed hungry. They come from a food impoverished home. I don't remember the
challenged or whatever.
I don't remember the name for
term,
it.
yeah.
But it's essentially they don't know where their next meal's coming from, right? And that's 1 in 4 kids in America.
And we're funding an entire proxy war in Ukraine and countless other conflicts across the world.
Yeah.
We're involved in everything, everywhere, every day, for every reason imaginable.
Yeah.
And we can't feed the people that we already got.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because feeding people is not profitable.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. It all comes back down to the bottom of it all.
Yeah, it comes down to profit, and our government is now for profit. It has been this whole time. Arguably, right. It's out in the open now. Like no one cares to hide it anymore.
If they can't turn a dollar or gain some sort of power, not happening. Not worth their time.
Yep. So this goes back to what I've said since the beginning of the podcast. Every institution in America is corrupt to its core.
Every? That's a strong word. That's a big word.
Every institution in America.
You mean governmental institution?
No. Every institution in America is corrupt to its core.
So that's what I'm saying. That's a big word.
Yep.
All
institutions. Healthcare, academia, education, government, state government, local government.
I can't argue with any of those.
I can't argue with those either.
All corrupt to its core.
All the ones you mentioned, absolutely.
And that's just the ones off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And that, we'll even segue into this policing. It's all corrupt.
You guys want some water before we start this talk?
Yeah.
I brought me some.
You got some?
I'll take one. And I'll preface this by saying I'm not anti-cop by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not. I'm pro freedom.
Well, see, like I was literally talking to Lucas about this the other day. I don't remember what question he asked me. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, dude, you got to understand. And it doesn't matter what pot of people you pick. Mm-hmm. There's going to be turds.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. There's turd teachers. There's turd cops. There's turd firefighters. There's turd
doctors.
Yeah.
I mean, there's turd. One thing is with policing, this is where it kind of goes off the rails for me, is the amount of power that police officers have with the amount of training that they're given.
See, I think they're super undertrained.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what maybe I didn't articulate that.
Very undertrained.
As good, but I feel like I think a bachelor's degree should be standard. A bachelor's degree should be standard for police officers, and it needs to focus on constitutional law and de-escalation.
Oh, the de-escalation part is so hard, though.
I know.
You know, because you've got these guys. They were in Mitchell County a handful of months ago. Mm-hmm. You know, up at the what's that restaurant? Not the Chalet. A big restaurant up on the hill. Can't think of the name of it. But they were the ones that were, and you know, they're going around to churches and stuff with big flags that have like, you know, F this and F that with big, you know, penises drawn on it and stuff like, and they're going there just to get a reaction so that they can start playing all of the legal loophole cards, because you got to give it to them. They know their law.
They know the law.
They know it too, back and forth, right? They know it better than, I'd say, 99% of our police officers.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Good cops would not fall for those traps.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase that. Educated cops would not fall for those traps.
But then they get put in these real tough situations because I don't remember who it was. It was one of the YouTubers that does this kind of thing, and he was down at a station, and he's walking through, or he's not on the property because again he knows the laws, but he's on the sidewalk, and you can get a clear shot. Like the parking lot's not 20 yards from there. And so he's out there like filming all these cars, like zooming in, getting license plates and stuff. And so I thought it was one of the best videos I ever saw by police officers coming out and handling it, because they were like, they just tried to be very sensible. And, you know, one of the key points they made is like, listen,
thanks, sir.
I've got undercover officers here, right? And you're over here taking pictures of their cars and license plates and stuff. You are endangering human lives, right? If this gets out and these people, their cover is blown, like you could literally be murdering people right now, you know, assisting in it. But because of the way that the laws are,
it's perfectly legal to
there's
do so.
Only so much stuff they can do, but their job is to protect and serve. And so I think most of them really try hard to do that. But when you get in situations like that, I mean, it's like you're a police officer and your hands are tied behind your back. Like,
sure. And I guess anecdotally, so in that situation, a good easy solve would be to take the tags off of cars. I mean, anything, and that's the thing, anything that is in a public space can be filmed. Yeah,
but I mean, to me, it just comes back to human decency. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you can abuse that law, but like, why? Like, you're literally just doing it to get a reaction. You're just doing it to try to get somebody to step over a line so you can sue them.
Well, isn't that what police officers do too when they try to get people to buy drugs?
There's definitely some of them, yeah.
And you know, it's that kind of entrapment. And I'm not, you know, saying that either one of them are right.
Are we talking about what are these guys called?
The auditors.
Auditors, yeah.
First Amendment auditors.
Oh, that's what they're called.
Yeah.
I honestly do believe, and I'm going to catch a lot of flack for saying this, but it's a necessary evil. It's a necessary
we had that right
evil.
before you moved back. We had those guys go. You were here.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was what you're talking about.
Yeah, because here's the thing: either it's all okay or none of it's okay as far as free speech goes.
There's got to be. I don't know. To
it's
me,
either all okay or not.
What I you know what I call it?
To me, it comes back to you can't make a law. You can't word a law that can make it any other way, right? You can't make a law to where it's like a middle ground.
What do you mean?
It has to be either you have the right to do this or you do not have the right to do this, and there is nothing in between it.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Either it's all okay or none of it's okay.
Yeah. And so you can't legislate.
Right.
I don't want to say like not chaos, but like you can't legislate control and peace and stuff like that because you have these auditors that are coming and only now I'll say there's been some that I've definitely seen the videos where the cops were absolutely out of line doing stuff that is just illegal, have no right, and they've got
way more than we want to.
They've got that badge, and all of a sudden I'm God, and you're going to do whatever I say, right? And that definitely happens, but I don't know if that happens. Like I would love to be able to have some sort of statistic that be like that happens this much of the time, and cops are just trying to maintain peace. And it's the auditor side that's really just making it just absolutely ridiculous.
I called it First Amendment masturbation, and people online were like, "How dare you say that?" And I'm like, "That's what it is. It's just just doing it because you can."
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing.
I know I'm gonna hate you when you
That's what
say
we're
that,
doing.
Josh.
We're doing the same thing.
I hate you when you say that.
We're doing the same thing.
I know, and it's true. I tried this. Because I hate that. I hate this shit so much.
I don't hate it, and I don't like it. Like I don't love to see.
I don't hate it.
I want to go out there and punch those guys in the face.
I don't
really.
I don't hate it.
Here's my First Amendment rights to punch you in the face, and the cops are right here to arrest me.
I get what Josh is saying too. Like I think there are definitely some who do it. I think there's a right way and a wrong way to do it.
100%. I agree with that.
There are,
and you
for
can
sure.
you can be an auditor and do it the right way, but the vast majority of the ones that I've seen are not. They're just doing it to.
Well,
push
you're just
buttons
all you're doing is you're making your living on being outrageous, which is what a lot of people do on the internet now. But I hate to tell you, auditors out there, a lot of you're no different than those kids on YouTube that go up and like put a bucket on somebody's head and then run away.
See, I disagree.
Because
I totally disagree.
I swear to God.
And here's why. Because the only way to stop behavior like that is through lawsuits. That's the only thing that will stop it.
But I mean, are those lawsuits honestly necessary? Because then you have the whole thing of like tort reform.
100%.
To keep ridiculous lawsuits from happening like that.
Well, as
there's no way anybody can convince me though.
As long as anybody as long as a person in a position of authority by the government is violating someone's civil rights, whether it's a First Amendment auditor or just us walking down the streets, those lawsuits are 100% necessary.
I agree with that.
I am a civil rights absolutist.
I agree with that because if you did away with it, then it would roll very heavily.
Yeah,
the
towards
other
the
direction very, very quickly.
Yeah, I can see that.
If all of a sudden they're like, okay, you can no longer sue police officers, you would start seeing a lot more brutality and all kinds of stuff.
Abolish qualified immunity.
Abolished qualified immunity.
100%.
Yeah. I do think that would on it. So let's define qualified immunity. You want to?
Yeah.
Just so we all, because I don't want to get.
Sure.
I know you already gave the disclaimer. I'm pro cops as well.
I'm pro cop too.
And this is a big part. This is a part of a story that's going on in our community.
And
I
am not part of the defund the police camp. I think we should we need to fund them to the tune of tenfold what we fund them. Mm-hmm. Police officers need to be paid an incredible amount of money for what they do.
Well, I wouldn't even say so much as the pay, but funding wise, so that you can get more of the training.
Yeah. So there needs to be a financial incentive for these cops to uphold constitutional law and civil rights, more so than escalating to arrest. Because right now the system we have set up is there's a financial incentive for the departments to escalate every situation into an arrest, because that's what their budget is based upon, is the amount of arrests made. So there's a financial incentive for every police officer, or every department rather, I don't want to generalize, for every department to get as many arrests as possible. And that leads to police officers, again generalizing here, but that leads to police officers escalating situations into needless arrests. And it doesn't matter if they get dropped or not. If the charges get dropped, it doesn't matter what happens to it after the arrest.
Here's one thing I have, and I'll read the qualified immunity.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wait, let's start there.
Okay.
Let's start there. So you said let's ban qualified immunity.
Abolish it, yes.
All right. Qualified immunity is a type of legal immunity that protects a government official from lawsuits alleging that the official violated a plaintiff's rights, only allowing suits where officials violated a clearly established statutory or constitutional right.
This is a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah,
I didn't really know this was a thing until Josh started talking.
You cannot sue a government official for violating your rights.
What?
Individually. You can sue the department,
You
but
said-
you
but
cannot
you can't
sue
go
a
after
cop.
the individual. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you should be able to 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. We need to abolish
If that's
that.
the person who is in charge and making those decisions, that's the person.
Well,
that
then
needs to
how
be
did
held
Derek
accountable.
Chauvin go down for the whole George Floyd thing?
Because he murdered him. Allegedly.
That was his. That
Allegedly.
was the
yeah.
the
He
argument.
was he was convicted of murder. It wasn't a civil rights thing.
Okay, so this is just pertaining to your civil rights.
Yes.
Not any crime or
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is a crime. It's illegal to do so, but that's a civil thing. It's not a criminal act. It's a civil act.
that's what I'm saying.
So
yeah.
it's settled through a lawsuit.
Right.
And that's the only way to stop it.
So that applies to not only just cops, but any government.
Any
official.
government official.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same in the military. I didn't realize that it was outside.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the military, you cannot sue another military member.
Yeah.
Can't do it. It's illegal.
Why?
Well, I mean,
Now you could like through civil court, but
you can't in a military.
but through the military courts, no,
right.
can't do it.
And see, with cops and any other government official, you can't in a civil court. You can't. You have to sue the department or the town. You cannot.
So it
sue
makes really the
individual.
bar for that much higher.
Right.
It's like you have to prove that there was gross negligence, basically, in the way that. So, like, let's just say, let's bring it back to home. And I don't want to talk about it in any sort of specifics with this case that we got going on. So there was a case, I'm sure most people that are listening to this, if you're from this area, you probably know, there was a case where a gentleman had an incident with the police at Walmart. He is alleging, I'm just saying this in
Police
brief.
brutality, yeah.
He's alleging police brutality, that he was in a diabetic episode, right? Type 1 diabetic, right?
Yes, yeah.
So he's saying that he was in a diabetic episode of some sort, and that when the cops showed up and removed him from the vehicle, there was an altercation, and he's alleging police brutality and
excessive force.
excessive force. Right.
Yeah.
That's specifically what it is, right? So what was I saying? So let's just say, let's go back and say, okay, well, let's say it's one officer involved in this, right? One officer is involved in an incident or this incident or whatever. So that the evidence clearly shows that this guy was at fault.
He cannot sue him.
He cannot sue him directly. He has to sue the
He'd have to
police
sue the
department.
police department or the
department.
sheriff's office.
Yeah.
So in that case, he wouldn't. If it was, I think it was 2 officers. Is that correct?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. 2 or 3, I think is
I
what
know
I
there
heard.
is at least 2.
At least 2. Well, great. See, now you get it. But so at least 2. So he couldn't sue the individuals.
Right.
He would have to sue the police
Right. And I
department.
think he should be able to sue the individuals.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
He should be able to sue the individuals.
And again, that just makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
it does.
That's the guy who did wrong.
Yeah.
That's the guy who gets held accountable.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
are you going to hold the county accountable and the taxpayers accountable?
Yeah.
Because
Well, how about this?
when they sue the police department, that's good. That's tax money.
So how about this?
Is it or is it? Is there insurance policies for lawsuits?
I'm sure there are insurance policies
Yeah.
for lawsuits.
But
I'm
still-
sure there are.
But still, if there's a lawsuit, the premium is going to go up. I mean, it's and that money's got to come from somewhere.
but they're
Right.
having to pay for those insurance.
Yeah. Oh,
policies.
I know.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, okay, so let's. I'm a general contractor. If I build a house that falls down, I have insurance, number one, that protects me from that, or represents me in the case that happens. I've never had that happen, thank God.
There you go. I was about to say, which has never happened.
Yeah, which has never happened. But government mandates that I buy that insurance. So why not mandate that, or even if a local government subsidized that insurance for individuals? So just do away with qualified immunity.
And just have every individual have their own insurance policy.
I mean, doctors have it.
That's absolutely
Doctors have it for malpractice.
Yep,
they sure do.
Yep,
they sure do.
I have it as a professional for my stuff. Yep. So it's almost like government is asking, but you're a chemist. You don't have to, I mean, I'm sure the company probably has insurance against
me.
Against what you.
Yeah, but
so essentially they're.
But I'm not affecting people.
Right, exactly.
I'm in there with one other person in my lab doing my thing. Like, I'm not affecting people. But here's my thing. Like, you have all this training, all these, all this money that is poured into healthcare professionals. Why are police officers not vetted the same way? Because they are in charge of somebody's life just the same.
True.
I don't know that anybody could argue with that.
Like,
for your degree, at least.
The second you take on a position where you hold someone else's life in your responsibility, there should definitely be a higher level of
there needs to be
accountability.
A higher bar. But here's the problem you got, and here's the
accountability and training both.
So here's the facts of the boots on the ground is that every profession is hard to hire for right now. Nobody wants to be a cop, especially after what happened in the last several years. The George Floyd things, the defunding the police, everybody hates cops, everybody does this. So what you've got, and I mean, I'll just say this point blank because I know it to be true, is, and I have no idea which officers were involved in that, if there were any of these. I'm just saying, is that the Spruce Pine Police Department, no doubt about it, has a lot of very junior cops. There are several of those kids that were bagging
groceries not long ago, within the year, I'd say.
Yeah, and that is absolutely, I want everybody to know, and let me be very clear, that's no slack to these people. They're trying to do and have a career. I'm sure they've completed the required training, and so that is no flack on them whatsoever. I commend them for their decision to go into law enforcement. Nobody wants to do that right now. I actually think you're a very brave person. That being said, that cannot be just overlooked.
Right.
It can't be. And I have no idea who was involved in this specific incident whatsoever, but that's something to be considered. Is that
here's how you solve this. It's easy. Offer financial incentives, pay them very well.
Where's that money coming from?
Oh, we're gonna have to fund it. I mean, and that's fine. I don't care. I mean, we're funding everything else already, so why not?
Just print some more money.
Pay them very well. Very well. So you have the cream of the crop wanting to do it. Make the training so that it weeds out people who have a propensity towards violence, towards escalation. Educate them in civil rights laws. Take away the financial incentive from the departments to escalate into arrests. If you do all these things to improve the institution, the morale's going to go up with the officers, because right now the officers are looked at in such a way, it's us versus them, so they band together like brothers and sisters. I get it, but that should not be a thing, because they protect each other, and their job is to protect the public.
Ooh, good point.
And they do. It is a brotherhood, sisterhood thing, and that should not be a thing. They look out for each other's interest over the public's interest, because they're fellow cops. And I'm sorry, but that is not ethical. You shouldn't. If you have that mentality, you should not be in a position of power, because you're protecting a system. Police officers are the law enforcement arm, the enforcement arm of the state. The state does not have its people's best interests in mind at all.
Well, but that's not the police officer's fault either.
It's not. And I'm not saying
I would argue that a lot of the people that are police officers probably would agree with that.
Sure. Here's the thing. If you solve for those, then police officers are overwhelmingly going to have a much better place in society.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have more incentive for people who want to do that job.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be looked on. You're looked at as a hero who is enforcing people's rights rather than somebody who is needlessly escalating, or rather than a position that is needlessly escalating every situation into an arrest.
I would agree with a lot of that. I will say this. I think you're talking systematic changes.
Yes. Yeah.
I was about to say there's a lot of moving parts there.
Yes, there are.
Sure.
And I'll give you one that I've, and maybe this can become a segue into something else, but one that I've always this is just me as a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen this places, like, and I've asked this question countless times, but, you know, what about instead of, you know, sitting on the side of the road and pulling people over for DUIs, how about, you know, when a bar closes, like, go into the bar, make yourself known, and be like, hey, guys, it's closing time. Let's head on out. Everybody sees the officer there. That's going to make everybody in that bar,
Instead of a hide and gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
that's going to make everybody in that bar be like, oh, am I good? Because I'm going to be leaving here right in front of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's simple things like that that could, and I often ask that, you know, even down when the Moon Dust was open. It's like, you know, I won't say I never saw a police officer in there, like on good time, like just as a check-in or whatever. But I often wonder, you know, like even in downtown Spruce Pine, like, you know, why not even during the closing hours of places, just make yourself known in places, you know? Just make yourself like, hey, get out of the car instead of just driving by and being this presence behind a shaded, you know, windscreen.
But the results of that could potentially bring down the amount of arrests that are made.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's bad for business.
Yeah. That's why they're not doing it, because of the system that we have now.
Yeah. This is and that's what I'm saying. When I say institution, I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You really think so? Even
100%.
here?
Every institution is corrupt to its core.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, like, you really think that's in the forefront of, like, the cops around here?
No, it's just a byproduct of the system that's created.
I want somebody to tell me. Here's something I want somebody to tell me. It certainly seems like this place is filled with law enforcement of all sorts.
For the amount of people we have.
For the amount of people we have.
It's pretty ridiculous,
I don't get that feel.
God, I do.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's living in town. Maybe it's...
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I bet that's it. Because I'll
bring up something real controversial. People probably hate on me for this, but, like, I think it's a fair question to ask why Spruce Pine, as a town of, 2,200 people, has a dedicated police department. You telling me we couldn't get the sheriff's department to
Bakersville
patrol?
doesn't have one, and I don't know what the population is of Bakersville.
And I have no idea whether this is the case, but I wonder almost, because I know at Spruce Pine at one point had almost, was that 4,000 people, I think?
Yeah.
Living at its height, or 4,500, something like that. I think that. Is that right? I may be wrong. But I think at one point it was definitely a bigger population. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why. But
sure. I don't know.
I'm just asking the question. Yeah. I'm not saying I don't know. I mean, quite honestly, I think most of the time Spruce Pine PD does a great
do. And here's the thing.
Great job.
Pan the camera to me. I am not anti-cop. The police officers we have do an amazing job.
I know quite a few of them.
I do too. I know them personally. They're good people.
And I love cases.
They do the best they can with what they're given. They do what they think is right. Mm-hmm. I'm talking big picture here. I'm not attacking anybody individually. I would never do that. I just think that there's a lot of room for systematic changes that need to happen for the betterment of the departments, for the relationship between cops and the general public, and for the protection of the citizens, because that's at the end of the day, that is their sole job, is to protect the citizens, not to arrest people.
Well, and I think at the very least, it's fair to ask the questions that lead to those.
100%. 100%.
And that's all I'm doing. I'm just asking questions.
Well, here's the thing.
But I feel like almost sometimes
let's go back.
You can't ask the questions.
Let's backtrack just a minute to the woke stuff, okay? Because I feel like you can't say a lot of the things. You can't ask a lot of those questions. It's the right is just as woke as the left, because when it comes to topics of police and a law,
there's so many
ask
sacred
questions.
cows.
You have to walk on eggshells, and it's like, dude, either it's all okay or none of it's okay. And the right is the ones that the right is the ones that espouse free speech. Well, free speech is, we have free speech laws to protect speech that we don't like, not speech we like.
Here's a question for you, Andy. Why don't more and I know a lot of them do, but why don't more military members go into law enforcement? Same reasons why civilians don't. It just seems like to me, as a person, I'm not a military person.
Well, I would say we'd have to pull up some statistics and see like national average,
Right.
Because I bet you I've got several Marine friends who, when they got out, became police officers.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a good question. You would think that like that could be they could have like some sort of transition program or something.
Sure.
Right.
Because now you've got these dudes who are highly qualified, have hundreds of times more training than their average police force.
Well, especially like a Marine.
Yeah.
I mean,
and so it makes sense to, if you were going to get out of the military and then go into something else, like that would make a lot of sense. But then at the same time, there's the whole, I've done that and I've did my time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I want to be done with this. Yeah, I'm tired of being shot at.
Yeah. So I get that too, but yeah, I'd have to see the statistics on.
Let's see if we can pull
how many active police officers were served in some.
Because I would say
capacity.
a lot of them do.
I'd say a lot of the police force were prior military. And especially when you get into like the SWAT guys and the really up there, those are all prior military dudes. Like it's rare to find dudes who weren't in those capacities.
And going back to earlier, what you're talking about Spruce Pine, why does Spruce Pine not have body cams? That just seems like a no-brainer in today's climate.
Isn't it? I thought that was like a mandate. Like that.
I don't think it is.
I thought
it was a man. I'll be honest with you, and I have no idea what the laws are. I thought I'd heard that it was mandatory.
Cameras don't lie, and any cop that says cameras make their job harder, I'm sorry, that's
and we did confirm that the Spruce Pine PD does not wear body cams.
They do not.
They don't have them.
Why? They need to.
Or I should say, are not required to wear body cams.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I don't know if anybody does. I assume you could probably do that voluntarily. I guess.
I don't think they have them. Like I don't think the department has those.
That's
supplies.
what we were told. By two different people.
Yep.
The person that I talked to and the person that you talked to told us that was not the case.
Yep.
So I'm going to go with that it's not true. I think that needs to change.
100%. Because that
just seems like a giant insurance
cameras
liability.
Do not lie.
Yeah.
Cameras don't lie.
Yep.
So here's your numbers. Nationwide, nearly 25% of law enforcement is former military of some sort.
But see, I thought it'd be higher than that, honestly.
Did you?
Yeah.
I did too.
I
still think that's a pretty respectable amount.
I mean, it's all right, but I'd be curious as to where they are in the echelons.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I thought that number would definitely be higher.
But again, there's no doubt about it that, especially in a civilian capacity, there is a problem recruiting people to be cops.
Sure. Sure.
All across the board, I would argue. Because who would want to do that? I would. You would have to be paying me very handsomely to do that.
Well, it's not just military either. Like our military is suffering right now. All branches, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, all of them are really struggling to meet their recruitment quotas. Yeah. We've had several stations around here closed down, and it's become much harder to get, especially those they rank them by letters. So to get those A quality candidates to sign up for 4 years and be like, I want to go serve the country. Like it's much more difficult than it used to be, and it's, I think, same thing with the police. But now with the police, you've got that extra stigma too, which I think it makes it even worse trying to get people to come out there. And I think, Josh, I think you're onto something with like the pay. You know what I mean? Because not only are you like you're creating a position that, I'm not saying like any police officer wants to lose their job, but like when there's more on the line, then you're probably going to be more restrained and controlled.
There needs to be an incentive for people to want to do it.
Yeah.
And if you increase the pay, if you improve relations between civilians and police officers, and that has to be done in systemic ways. There's just no other way around it. There's only so much propaganda you can, you can go. And I wonder too, I'm interested to know I would love to know what you think's causing the decline in the military enrollment too.
I think
a lot of it has to do with pay probably as well. No. You get paid pretty decent military. Okay.
Yeah, especially now we're not, deploying like we were. But yeah, as a Lance Corporal, E3 in the Marine Corps, you go to a combat zone, you're making bank.
Okay.
Like, cause you're not paying taxes.
Right.
You, if you're in one of those zones, those tax-free zones, and you do your re-enlistment there and you have a re-enlistment bonus, tax-free, all that stuff. Good. Yeah. Good. So no, the pay's there.
What do you think's driving that then?
Do you think part of it is just the fact that we don't need as many now?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think is there any, just like with every other job now, so you got a lot of manufacturing jobs that are being automated. A lot of this stuff is being done. Like, we don't conduct hand-to-hand warfare like we used to. But I guess.
But we need to be ready to.
Fair enough.
Because if we're not, that's when you get punched in the mouth and then you're like, oh crap, what happened?
Right.
Here's a question. I wonder how much of that is driven by the fact that now it is very much obvious that when you enlist, you're not necessarily serving your country, you're serving the interests of business elites and the government.
I never saw it I never felt that way.
Until you got in it.
No, I didn't even feel like I was serving like the elitists or anything like that,
or the military industrial complex.
Yep. I mean, I was definitely a part of it, but to me, it came back to like my reasons for being there.
Sure. Yeah.
So no, I don't.
Well, the Marine Corps is still a pretty prestigious institution.
Yeah, but like everything else, like we keep dropping the bar and dropping the bar and dropping the bar and dropping the bar.
Well, and that goes into that video I was telling you about by that Moon YouTube channel, and it goes very deep into how America has become less educated, dumber. It's losing. I mean, our IQs are dropping, our physical fitness is dropping. Everything about us is.
We are de-evolving.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy? Yeah. It's happening.
It really feels like it is.
And there's statistics to back it up. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if you look at number of offspring,
we are devolving.
We are devolving.
That movie. That's when it showed the hospital, and then like the sign says Saint God's Hospital, and the sign's like all crooked. The letters are like following.
And you never watch it. It's
Mike Judge.
Oh my God! Yeah, it was.
That was Mike Judge. Yeah. Okay. I got you.
But you start looking at some of the stuff that we're doing now, you're like, that makes zero sense. Like, what are we doing?
That was going to be a look into the future.
Yeah, and that if you look at it statistically, it makes sense too, right? Because unfortunately, if you look at the correlation between education and offspring, the super highly educated people don't have children. If they do, it's one. And then on the other side, you know, if you have, you know, very low IQ people and, you know, they match up and 14 of them running around. Yeah.
It definitely seems to be that way. It's like your college educated people have way less children, and educated people in general have way less children.
There's a direct correlation to it. Like if you go
and the
look
third
at
world too, like that's another thing. The third world is reproducing at a
exponentially
much higher rate than the first world. So
and we're importing like millions of illegal immigrants.
Oh my goodness! Have y'all
not to comment on any illegal aliens' intelligence level. I'm just saying that's what we're doing.
Let's shift there. All right? Have y'all seen the numbers?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! What's happening there? Is there a drive for that? Like why? Right?
I think that
there is.
I saw a video and the guy's going through and he's got the top. The smallest 10 states in the United States, and it has their total population, and you know, you tally it all up, and he's like, this is the same number of illegal immigrants who have entered the country in the last 4 years.
Yeah,
and you're like,
it's estimated. I saw a thing today, 8 million illegal immigrants,
way higher,
and you know it's way higher.
It's way higher than that.
That's just the ones we can count.
It's way higher than that.
And so
I'm not anti-immigration.
South Dakota,
Absolutely,
South Dakota has 800,000 people, John.
What?
Yeah.
The entire state of South Dakota has just a little over 800,000 people.
Like when you look at the states,
Dear
it's
Lord.
like let me see if I can find these states. And then you think about every single person that lives in that state, and for every single person, there has been another person come into the country in the last 4 years.
And it's simple. When you import the third world people, cultures, you import the third world.
You do.
I mean, that may be.
And I'm not even sure what we're importing right now, because it looks like to me a lot of them people ain't got very brown skin.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it's Chinese, it's
agnostic
Eastern European people.
Well, you look at
the situation that's going on.
You know, there's
the border.
There's
I know
reports,
it's out of control.
There's reports that a lot of it are Chinese, and that they're plants.
Interesting.
That they're plants.
Well, you know they would have to be.
And so, you know, you look at all the stuff going on over there. You know, whenever Ukraine...
China, we're destroying ourselves. We don't need any help.
Yeah, don't worry. We're doing a good enough job.
We're going to take care of it.
You guys need to save the money. And I hate to be so pessimistic about things, but golly, dude.
Man, it's not. It's just realistic. Like, this is where we're at. It's not pessimism.
Yeah, it's just factual things that are happening.
We're just... This is where we're at. It's like watching the fall of Rome, but with Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That's what it feels like.
I really feel like we're witnessing the fall of the United States.
I agree completely.
I really do. And, you know, that's...
So when do people start to kick in the Constitution?
Dude, we're not going to do that. Are you kidding me?
So, well, now hang on.
We don't have the balls to do
Hang on, because now, have y'all seen the movie that's coming out next month? Civil War?
Civil War movie?
Look up the trailer. It's called Civil War. Texas, and from what I can gather, Texas and California have broke away. Why Texas and California would ever team up makes no sense. Right? But Texas and California have broken away, and America has broken out in a 21st century civil war.
What an interesting kind. Now that's an original movie.
Well, now
that's the kind of movie you need to be making.
But now, why are they making that movie? Right?
Oh, sure, because I mean everybody sees it coming.
Because like there's, you know, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm also, you know, don't believe that everything's rainbows and unicorns.
Right,
you know?
right.
So you look at all the stuff that's happening. You look at our markets. You look at our economy. You look at society as a whole. We've got all these different problems. You look at them wanting to roll out this new cryptocurrency for what is presented as an American idea, but really it's going to be a world currency. Right. And so we've been talking about how all these politicians, and it's not the left or the right, it's both of them. Like they're in on it together. I mean, there's probably ones and twos that like aren't getting the memos that aren't in the club, but for the most part, all the big rights and all the big lefts they are all in on it together, in my opinion. And it looks to me like they are driving America to basically cease to exist.
I mean, who's going to fight a bunch of like purple-haired non-binaries?
I will comment on that.
I get it, but seriously, who's going to fight though?
Well, let me back up. So I hear a lot about the one world currency, and I have some pretty good insight on this because I've traded futures, forex, foreign currencies a lot. I can tell you, I will say this with the utmost of confidence: there will never be a one world currency, because that's where major banks make 90% of their money is trading currencies.
Really?
Yes, 100%. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, all these massive all these massive banks, they trade currency. The consumer banking that they do, that they offer as products, is a drop in the bucket to the profits that they make from trading currencies between countries.
But that is also assuming that the world is the world. And so if there's a massive shift in the world, if America goes down, the entire world's going to feel it. The entire world is going to feel it.
Yeah, they will.
Hard.
They will.
The whole world economy almost collapsed because Greece went bankrupt a couple of years ago.
So
thank you, Keynesian economic politics.
I lost a ton of money in that.
Yep.
Yeah, I was trading currency at that moment.
Really?
Yeah, I lost a ton of money in that. Yeah.
But that goes back to show you, that's where we're at though. The atomic weapon. Assured mutual assured
destruction, yeah.
And then your Keynesian economic policies that went into effect like in the 20s and all this stuff tied the whole world together financially. So if some tiny country like Greece, in the big scheme of things, in the world economy, what's Greece other than some olive oil maybe, and that country falls apart and it nearly sets off a chain of events that take down the entire. Can you imagine if America went bankrupt?
Like,
what would happen?
There's massive overhauls that would have to happen across the entire world.
Yeah.
And so I get what you're saying with the banks and stuff like that, but that's assuming that the world continues to operate that it operates now, and I don't think that'll be the case.
What do you think about cryptocurrency, since you did a lot of trading in that? What do you think about crypto?
I'm a huge fan of crypto because I'm a big fan of any kind of decentralized anything. Anything. Yeah. But I never traded crypto. I know a lot of people who have made tons of money investing in and trading crypto. I never did. I made some pretty good money trading. I lost a lot of money trading too. So that's something I don't do anymore because it's everything was hunky dory until the pandemic.
All of it got just completely
And trading is gambling, but on a global scale. And the house always wins. I just don't have the means.
Hit me with a good time, Josh.
I know, dude. It is. And those days that you win, you're like, holy shit! I just made $5,000.
I'm a big fan of a craps table.
What? This is insane. Yeah. And then the days you lose, you're like, I just lost $20,000 in 5 seconds. I'm gonna go jump off the roof.
No. Pull the Michael Scott. No. Well, see, with that, and now with this, budgeting world of AI, I've been curious why someone hasn't created a
bot that trades for you.
Well, that or something that is purely analytical and predicts trends.
It will come if it isn't already.
I'm surprised that it's not already.
JP Morgan Chase has a corner on that. Yeah. They've got that software already, and we're not getting it.
That will never be released to the public.
Yeah, somebody's got to do some work on that for us if we want to. We're going to have to get Elon on that one.
He'd do it.
Yeah,
I think he'd do it.
Elon launched some more people into space last night.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Cool.
No kidding.
I'm a big fan of that guy.
I like him. I'm not a big fan. I'm a fan. I like him. I think he's a cool guy.
See, you were going back, you're talking about like smart people and how brilliant. Smart people are not having babies.
He's doing his part.
This is where I think autism comes in. The Bible says the meek will inherit the earth. I'm telling you, I got 2 of them. Pretty smart.
I don't see
pretty smart kids.
They are, but I don't see like Elon Musk as the meek.
Maybe no.
I do not see.
Not meek in the sense of that term. I'm just saying it's like Man, you got a lot of people on the spectrum out there now, and those people are in a large part a lot smarter than all of us.
About that, so do you think that's the reason? Seems to be a lot more now than there has been in the past.
Well,
look at our food.
100%.
So is that because
we just put a name to it?
That's what I was going to ask. Is it because we put a name to it?
100.
Made it a spectrum.
I think it's just like cancer. Like it just continues to get more and more and more.
It does. I think there's a certain, but I think there is more.
Mm-hmm.
I think we recognize it, and it's a spectrum. So like there's kids that are nonverbal on the autism spectrum or whatever, and so there's the whole thing. But boy, it does seem like there's a lot of people on the more what used to be called Asperger's.
Yeah, the high functioning
side of those things, and let me tell you, their brain works on a whole other level.
It does. Mm-hmm. It does. I almost wonder if it's not like the next step in human evolution.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's nature's way of correcting itself. And I know that sounds crazy, but honest to God, I ask myself that question sometimes.
I wouldn't say that it's nature's way of correcting itself. I wonder if it's like it due to the selective pressures because the amount of information that's being forced at us constantly.
Yes.
That's where our evolution's headed.
That's exactly where I'm going. That's exactly what I
Because, I mean, dude, there's no way anybody can parse the amount of information that's set before us now. Like in 10 minutes, I mean, you just can't parse. It's information overload 24/7.
Well, when you're somebody like Elon Musk who's running a single-handedly revolutionizing the automobile market.
He's trying. I'm not a fan of that, but
it's happening. He ain't trying.
I know.
Did you see that new Roadster 0 to 60 in less than 1 second?
And that's fantastic. But man, you could do that with a motor too. It's gotta. I'm a car guy though. I know it's incredible.
It's electric engine torque, Josh.
It is.
You're just not going to change it. You're just not going to change it.
I know that. But God.
So when do electric cars come to NASCAR?
Oh
man. Good luck with that.
Well, so if GMC and Toyota and Ford and all them already said we are not going to produce a gasoline or a fuel-based vehicle by the year 2030, does that apply to them too?
Mm-hmm. Well,
because that'll get real interesting.
Yeah, could you imagine?
They're coming around corner 4 doing 73.
Every car is now doing 400 miles an hour.
I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. I mean, you got to give whatever you think about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's pushing innovation, no doubt about it.
He is. 100%.
He's launching humans into. I mean, I don't know if you guys keep up. I'm kind of like a
fanboy.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a fanboy. Oh, for sure,
That's
fanboy.
Right.
Elon Musk. I'll admit it.
Sure.
But in particular, SpaceX, I love.
No, I'm a big fan of that.
I love that. And I mean, the amount of rockets they are shooting off, I mean, it's getting to where it's like multiple a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When I don't remember the name of it, but when I saw the rocket take off.
Oh, Starship.
And then the I don't nomenclature is I'm lost, right? But when they detached, and then they flew back and then they landed on the pad themselves, I was like,
it's wild.
We showed that on here. We showed that on here one time.
Yeah.
It looks like something that's unreal.
Yeah,
it looks like it's animated.
Sci-fi movie or something. Like
it's crazy.
That's not real. You can't do that. Yes, you can. Because he's pushing it, nonstop, constant.
That Starship thing, that's the one that gets me. So I'm like watching that thing. That's the new one. It's the biggest rocket. It's the biggest flying object ever. It's like the size of like a 15-story building.
Holy cow.
It's unbelievable. And I think people see it, you see it in a headline and you're like, oh, launches this thing. No, you don't understand. I mean, it's like people standing beside that thing. I mean, it's, you've seen like Apollo 13 and all those like realistic depictions of like the Saturn V rocket. I mean, it's like little people down here. Mm-hmm. This is like 25% taller than a Saturn V and like way bigger. Mm-hmm. I mean, largest, a 36 Raptor engines I think it has on it. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, it like causes an earthquake when it goes off.
That's crazy.
And that's what's going to take us to like Mars and all that type of stuff.
Huh. So I had my grandfather. He was my biological grandfather. He was a little bit of an artist, and he painted me a picture before he died, and it was a picture of the old got the finned out wings space shuttle, and he titled it Noah's Ark 2.
Really? It's true.
I was like, oh man, that's cool. And I mean, that was 30 years ago.
Well, when you think about what Elon Musk says, it's like my goal is I want to make our species interplanetary. And the whole reason is very simple. He's like, eventually the sun will expand. This planet will boil. It will become uninhabitable. And Mars in the future will be
the new Earth.
It'll
be terrestrial.
Like, we have to make it there to ensure the survival of our species, because it's just a matter of time. And most likely before that happens, we will have not one but several civilization-ending events impacts on this planet.
Yeah, because we're talking like hundreds of thousands to millions of years.
Yes. So we have to. It's not a matter of want to. If you want our species to survive, you have to.
Do you think our species will make it that far?
No,
I don't think so.
No, we'll either kill each other with nuclear war, or we will just wreck the system completely and starvation and fall.
Well, we might be the last generation. We could be the old guys to go to Mars. You want to go to Mars?
I would go.
I swear to God, I wouldn't go now, but let me hit about 70 and see how good of a physical shape I can get in. I might go at 75, 75, depending on what's going on.
I'm good here on Earth.
I'll go to Mars.
I would. Totally, I swear I would.
I would totally go.
I would. I've thought about it. Not now, like I said, but later. If for some reason they wanted me to go and I was older, I would go.
Okay. Since we're on the topic of space.
Okay.
Dude, the amount of people that believe flat Earth.
I was getting ready to bring it up. Did he launch it into space, or did he hit the firmament?
Right?
It's insane.
It is insane, the amount of people that believe flat Earth theory.
And now I'll be honest, like, I'm careful. I don't know if I say this or not. Like, I'm a science teacher, right? And I've seen a couple videos that are like, dang, that makes a lot of sense. Like,
they're good.
Hang on a minute here. Good. Like, that's really good, right? Like,
well, there definitely are questions that I have. I mean, how do you? Sure. I guess what it comes to is like, how much? What's the value of seeing it with your own eyes? I mean, we've never been to space and looked back.
I would love to know what the motivation is behind this grand conspiracy to convince everybody the Earth is round.
Well, there's a lot of
what?
There's a lot of jumping spots for them to like hang on to. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I learned this a handful of months ago. Did you guys know that every single picture of planets, of stars that have been released by NASA are completely computer generated?
Yeah.
Completely.
It shoots the data back and then it generates an image on a computer.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's not, they're not taking a picture.
Well,
yeah, because you can't get exposure in space either.
Right.
Especially in deep space, because it's so cold.
Well, now if you get like the Hubble, so the Hubble can actually take those kind of photos, but it's similar things. It's using certain sensors.
Kind of the way that it sends data back is in these lists, and then it uses those data sets
build what it looks like.
To compile an image. Yeah.
But so that's like saying that what people are watching on our podcast is computer generated because we're shooting it with a camera and it's going through. It's the same concept.
Right.
The image is captured, it's data, then it's transferred into an image through a computer.
What's basically transferred back is basically not a whole lot more than binary code, pretty much. Right. And then it comes in a large stream and is then compiled into what becomes a photo.
So that's what kills me with the flat Earth. Like, all the things they quote, there's such low resolution thinking. The way that they they trap people.
They're not real pictures, so it must be fake.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well,
there's more to that story.
It's a very large jump.
Yes. Yeah. It is. So, I mean, what people are watching on this podcast right now is technically computer generated images.
Yeah.
And audio. So are we real? Are we flat Earth? Are we the flat Earth?
Maybe it's all a simulation.
It is. I'm 100%. It's all a simulation. None of it's real.
We can't go down that road.
Mandela.
So Andy, switch gear because we got.
I just want. I need to say one thing.
Yeah.
The cornucopia was real.
Dude, it was. It was real. It was on Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually they finally admitted that was real. What happened was The company got bought up by somebody else, and they were like, okay, I don't know what happened there, but they done away with it, and then when people started freaking out, they just didn't. That was real though. Let me look it up because I'm not articulating correctly or accurately what happened.
Okay.
Are you talking about the cornucopia on the
Fruit of the Loom logo?
Yeah,
that never existed.
It did exist.
No,
That was so. Fruit of the Loom, the company, has made official statements that say we have never had a cornucopia as our trademark. And then they'll put up like, this is what we used in this decade, and this is what we used it here, and there's no cornucopia. They say it never existed.
What? That's crazy.
The Monopoly guy never had a monocle. And that one can be not disproven, but very sharply addressed. Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
Pet detective. He knocks the guy out.
Yeah.
You must be the Monopoly guy. Do not pass go. Do not collect it.
So
and part of it's because he had the big monocle. Yeah.
So the Fruit of the Loom did have a cornucopia. Here it is. There it is.
We all know what it looked like.
There it is. All right. So what happened was this new company bought Fruit of the Loom, and they said the cornucopia was never our logo. Well, that's true because this is a new company that changed their logo.
So it's just a technicality.
It's marketing.
Oh, that's a bunch of horse.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
Why didn't they come out and say that then?
Well, because it's a brilliant marketing ploy. The reason this all got started was because it started from a single tweet when Fruit of the Loom tweeted, "The Mandela effect is real. The cornucopia is not our logo." Well, sure, it's not now.
So they're just generating buzz.
Yeah.
Viral marketing, baby.
Played.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
we got played.
Straight played.
Totally got played.
Well, listen, I wanted to ask you about the whole. So we've talked about the end of the world. We're definitely headed down a path that we can.
We're headed there.
So, Alaska.
Yeah.
Tell us about this whole thing. What is going on? So you bought a place in Alaska?
So I have, for some reason, I don't know why, but I've always had this affinity, and I just wanted to go and see it and see what it's about. And I'm telling you, if you've got that itch and you go, you will fall in love.
Period.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And so it was my last. I was finishing up my last year of school, and summer break comes around. So Megan's a teacher. Both of the boys are at the house at that point, and so she went, this is going to be the last. Because I wasn't planning on becoming a teacher. I was, getting my degree in environmental science, and I was planning on being a lab or a field tech or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, it's the last summer that we're all going to be off together. Let's take a big trip. I was like, cool. And she planned it. Megan is a travel planner extraordinaire. Like, I'm serious. I've told her, I was like, you can quit your job and go be a travel planner.
Yeah, I can see that. She's very meticulous.
She puts together phenomenal trips. So she put together this trip in 2017 where if it is north or west of Waynesville, we saw it.
Really? We
left about 4 to 5 days after school got out, and we got back about 5 days before school started. We went up the eastern seaboard, basically. Not the seaboard, but up the East Coast, all the way up to Niagara. Started cutting across the top. Made it into Washington. Checked out Seattle, which I really enjoyed. I was kind of surprised by that. Flew out of there into Alaska. And it was literally just a series of events that happened that if it hadn't happened the way it did, it wouldn't be the same.
Right.
So we go up there and we're staying at this Airbnb cabin. That's when it's starting to take off, and it's a dry cabin, no electricity, no running water. Well, there's electricity, it's solar, and the caretaker. So we didn't know this. We're in the cabin. We took a red-eye flight and got in early. And so we get into the cabin and we're messing around, trying to turn the heat on because even in July and end of July and up there, it's
cold at night.
When you're coming from the lower 48, you're like, oh, it's kind of like I'm gonna throw a jacket on,
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out the heater and stuff like that, and we hear a knock on the door, and Sue, I love you, Sue, opened the door and she greets me with a double barrel shotgun and says, you mind telling me what you think you're doing? And I'm like, we're the Wantz family? Like, we're supposed to be staying here? That's how we got in the door? We had the code? And she's like, oh, okay. Puts the gun away. She's like, I'm Sue, you know, I take care of the place. Da-da-da-da.
That's awesome.
Turns out to be one of the most friendliest, nicest. She is a super mama. Like, she's everybody's grandmama, right? So she gets talking with us. She's like, you all ought to come over and have dinner with us tonight. So we go over. We end up making friends. And while we're there, we were only there for like 5 or 6 days the first time. But while we were there, we had already fallen in love. And we're like, oh, what does property cost up here? And so we went and looked at a patch that, honestly, I wish we'd have bought it, because the space that we got is low-lying land, and we've had some problems with water. But looked at a place, and where we were financially, it wasn't like ridiculous. I think he wanted like $15,000 for 5 acres. And it was just
that's cheap.
Wow.
Yeah, not bad. But where we were at, where I was in school, wasn't making a lot of money there, and Megan's the only one really working. We couldn't swing it financially, so we kind of put it on the back burner. We really never thought much about it after that. We went back a couple more times because when we were up there, Sue and Dan, her husband, who was a Marine, would ride us around and introduce us to their neighbors, and they're like, they're thinking about moving up here. And they'd be like, every single person's like, have you been here for a winter? Like, yeah. Well, no, not yet. Like, you better come and stay for a winter before you decide you want to buy property and move up here, because that scares most people away. Yeah. So we're like, okay, cool. So we went up for a couple winters, and we love the winters.
Oh, so you have been there.
Oh yeah, we love the winters more than we love the summers. Like, it's incredible. Snow machining, and we call it ice catching. We've never been ice fishing. We've only been ice catching.
Really?
Yeah, a couple different times.
Fishing is a lot different than catching.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, every time we went, you can't keep the hook in the water for, more than 45 seconds, and you've got to fish.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There was, the first time we went, it was me. It was just me. The boys didn't go the first time we went up for a winter, because we were like, okay, it's Alaska in the winter.
Right.
So we checked it out first. But it was me, and then Jeff, who is actually, he was a resident of Mitchell. He moved up to Fairbanks as a EMS worker. His 2 kids. It was just the 3 of us. I guarantee you we caught 100 fish an hour.
Golly.
That's crazy.
Guarantee it. So anyway, sorry, I'm making it long. One day I'm downstairs working on some lesson plans or something, and Megan comes down, and she's done this once or twice for like Disney trips and stuff. Like, she creates presentations. Yeah?
Right.
She comes down, she's like, all right, just hear all of the argument before you say anything. And I'm like, all right, what are we spending a bunch of money on? And she starts showing it to me, and I'm like, girl, what are you doing right now? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you should be calling the realtor right now. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, this is too good to pass up. I don't mind telling you, like, we got 10 acres for $30,000.
Wow.
And the 10 acres has you wouldn't call it a cabin. It had, it used to
structure.
Yeah, structure, literally 4 walls, a floor, and a roof.
Right.
And when we got there, it didn't even have 4 walls.
Right.
Because what we found out was that the national pastime of Alaska is theft. And so if theft was an Olympic sport, Alaska would take gold, silver, and bronze. Like, it's pretty.
People just, if they know nobody's going to be there, they'll just go and jack it. Yeah.
Literally, people were taking plywood sheets off of their walls, off of our house.
Plywood was coming at a premium there for a while.
Right. So,
I don't know if you were hearing.
I mean, I've never been like, you know what? I ain't seen anybody in that house. I'm just gonna go take the wall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
But that's the idea. Like, it's right there. I need it.
Police, they stole my wall.
Yeah.
So how do you do to combat that? Just hire somebody to watch after it for you?
So we got really lucky because we're basically the last tract of property there. And I've got about 55,000 acres of like state and federal owned land around me that's all public access and stuff. So I'm sure we'll probably have a little bit of an issue with like some people crossing properties and stuff like that. But We've got two really good neighbors. Steven, sorry, don't like to be called Steve. Steven, he's a native. He's lived there his whole life. Like, he grew up on the land that he still lives on. And he's literally the next person to us. And then a gentleman by the name of Vic, who was from Pennsylvania. He actually moved up there full time this past summer. Two really good guys, and they are helping us with like keeping an eye on the property and keeping people off. We've actually already had one situation where Steven called me. He's like, "Hey, I just saw so and so going down your property. Just to let you know, I went down there. I hope that's okay." He's super respectful about stuff like that. But he's like, "I hope that's okay." But I went down and talked to him because I saw there's a right-of-way road that's basically the driveway, but then it cuts off of that, and that's the corner of that road is basically where our property starts. He's like, I saw him make the turn. And so once he did that, I knew he was on your property. So I went down there and talked to him, and he's not very happy. They ended up having called police. There's a very common tendency for like guns to be drawn on people up there. Like,
it really is
it's the Wild West. It is the last frontier. It's really, but it's kind of cool too. So like, they don't have building codes. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Really?
So yeah, we're building our cabin up there, and we're doing it all by ourselves, and we're trying to do everything right because we're also building a house here.
Sure.
So we're trying to learn as we go. But yeah, you literally just do whatever you want.
I guess as long as you can make it to survive.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the idea of what's the political party? Libertarian. It's kind of like the libertarian idea, which always was just laughable to me because I'm like, it makes great sense on paper, but essentially it's, I should have the right to do anything that I want to as long as it doesn't infringe on anyone else's rights. Well, the fact that I exist infringes on your everything, right? I take up space, I'm breathing air, right? I drink water, like, so I'm using resources, so my existence affects you. Right. So I get it, but then I don't get it, right?
But I wouldn't say that it doesn't infringe on your rights.
It doesn't infringe on your rights, but then it comes down to they really start to push that thing to where it's like, well, I should have the right to just go wherever I want and do whatever I want.
I had a friend of mine tell me that he went to a libertarian convention in Washington, D.C., and he said behind closed doors they sincerely have like heated intellectual arguments about whether like 14-year-olds should be able to have the right to proselytize themselves. He's like, this is why the libertarians don't gang national. This is the reason I always call myself, I'm a pretty hardcore small government guy at heart.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. But that's the reason I call myself a small L libertarian.
Wow.
Yeah.
A small L.
Small L libertarian. Anyway, go ahead.
But it really, it's like the libertarian idea is Alaska. Like, go up there, do what you want, as long as you ain't killing somebody, doing anything like crazy illegal, you're good. Right? So we went up this past summer. And that was the first time we really got to go up there. We had to skip a year because, again, we just didn't have the finances. But we had a lot of other stuff going on too. So we went up this past summer, got a lot of work done on it, and we're not finished yet. Like, we still got to do some wiring and plumbing, and then like just the finish work.
Yeah.
But our plan. So originally we were like, we're fed up with society. We're fed up with like the way everything is going. Let's just pack it. Like, let's sell the house and just move to Alaska. Homestead as much as we can. Get some online jobs for income. Homeschool Lucas, and then travel.
Will you get some HughesNet out there or something? What do you got?
No, we're
Starlink now.
Yeah, we haven't got it yet, but that's pretty much what we're going with.
Hey, HughesNet, buddy.
HughesNet. Always in Alaska.
It's awful.
Get some Netscape out there.
Gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, we bought it with the idea of it just like, cool, we own property in Alaska, and we can, at any time we want, we just go to Alaska and we have property.
That's pretty sweet.
Right? It is pretty sweet. But the more, like, we really love it there. And
so what part is it in, if you don't mind?
Talkeetna. It's smaller than Bakersville.
Sure.
It's literally one street. Like the town is one street, and there's probably, it's growing. Like it's been featured on a couple of National Geographic things and stuff like that. And so it's starting
people are getting
it's starting to butt up, but it's still super tiny. And
is there a Dollar General there?
There is not a Dollar General.
Holy cow! Someone tell them.
Somebody get on it.
No, there's not one in Talkeetna. Now there's plenty of Dollar Generals up there, but not one in Talkeetna yet. I'm sure it's just a matter of time.
If they put one in Billadine.
Yeah, they'll put one in Talkeetna. I'm sure.
I'm surprised there's not one across the road from me right now.
I know.
But so me and Megan are, we've been blessed. We really have. When we bought our house in Waynesville, that was our forever house. We're like, this is it. We're packing, we're growing roots, and that was a big thing for Megan because she is a gypsy soul. Like literally, she just wants to travel and just go and go and go. Usually when we're somewhere for about 3 years, that's when she starts getting itchy. And she's like, okay, look, I need to do something different.
Yeah.
And so for her to be like, okay, we're growing roots, this is where we're going to live, and that was a big step. And then the market went stupid. And I'm not going to share numbers, but our property value literally doubled.
Wow. Doubled
in 3 years. And so when it happened at first, we were like, we should sell, right? Like it just makes sense. Right. But we really felt like we had a very strong religious tie. We're both Christians, and so we honestly felt like, and it was just because of the way things happened. We felt like God had literally led us to that house, and that it was where He wanted us to be for some reason, right? And so it was really hard to be like, well, let's sell the house, make a bunch of money, right? Because it's like, well, we feel like God's gave us this house, and so we backed off on it. And then the prices just stayed up and stayed up and stayed up, and then we started, like I don't really know if we want to do this, and like let's just get out of here. And so the idea was we're going to just sell it, go up to Alaska and go with that plan. But similar kind of things happened to where I don't know if any Mitchell County teachers are out there or anybody that's ever been in the system, but like it's hard to become a teacher in Mitchell County. There's usually not very many spots open, and with both of us being educators, it's even more difficult. And we'd actually tried to come back to Mitchell a couple different times, but we could never both gain employment, and so it never worked. And so I reached out to a couple of my contacts that were still here and was like, what do you think about this? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. This science position's open. And I was like, I think I'm okay. Like, I think I can get the science position, but the problem is I don't really have anything for Megan. And so she, just a little bit of back, she had been working on her Spanish really strong for about 3 years at that point. We especially at like Tuscola, which is where she was teaching, every year we would get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 students that would come there, and it was these situations where somebody died and they got enough money to get them shipped over here to some family member over here. And so you've got kids that are walking around in high school, no one around them speaks their language, and like, let's face it, like it's majorly white, right? The Hispanic community is growing, but it's not anywhere near, like they came from a place that only spoke Spanish,
right?
And so they've never heard English words before, and now they're just inundated with white Englishness. And she just had a real big spot in her heart for that, and so she decided that she was going to be their champion, and started working hard on her Spanish. And her plan was to eventually move into an ESL position. And she had actually started kind of dipping into that through her media coordinator position at Tuscola. They started giving her a couple kids here and made a class that was kind of like an ESL class. And so when the science position here opened up for me, I was like, that's great, but there wasn't a whole lot left for Megan. And so God love her, she went and applied and interviewed for a math position, and math is not her weak. or it's not her strong point. But she went and interviewed for a middle school math position on a Friday, and we actually left. So she interviewed on Friday. We flew out Saturday morning. We got up to Alaska, started rock and rolling on stuff, and on Monday her phone rang and it said Mitchell County Schools. She was like, "Daggone, that was fast." And I was like, "Cool, yeah." So she answers it, and it's basically, I think she's the director of the ESL programs in Mitchell County. And she said, "Hey, I saw that you applied for this position, but in your application, I saw that you've been working on your Spanish and you're working on becoming a translator. And we have a very dire need right now for an ESL position. Would you be interested in that in any way?" And so, I mean, it was literally, it was just we're like, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how we ended up shifting from, we're going to go to Alaska and just homestead and travel and stuff like that, to, all right, well, we're going to shift and come here, because again, we just felt like the Lord was leading us to this place. And I don't have any doubts of that. I can't tell you how many people's asked me, like, "Well, do you like it?" And I'm like, I didn't realize I was in an abusive relationship. Really. Like, the school system here, from top to bottom, left and right, is better in every way. In every way. The sense of community here is, like, it really just touches my heart to see some of the stuff that, you know, when Troy got hurt, we spur of the moment, there was they were like, "Hey, let's get a bus together and just take kids over there." And they're like, "Well, you can't go in the hospital. We can stay in the parking lot." "Well, we're going to go to the parking lot. We're going to pray for him." That would have never happened in Waynesville, ever. Right? And that's where I'm talking about, like, we are in this protected bubble, because it's like those morals and that sense of community and being each other. You know, I am my brother's keeper. People believe it here. You know what I mean? And they live it.
I'll be honest with you, Andy. The reason I mentioned I have two kids on the spectrum, the reason I brought them back here is because of that.
Yeah, and
I had them in
We do have a sense of community here that larger cities, well, that's rural America. America has a sense of community that cities do not.
Like
Cities you're so isolated.
Well, so Waynesville's not a massive place.
No.
Right? It's rural-ish.
Yeah.
But the dynamics are so strange, because in a class, I started in middle school, and so I'd have a class of 30 kids. And in that class, I'd have kids who are below that poverty level that we were talking about, who are severely handicapped mentally, not severely, but pretty strongly handicapped, sitting right beside kids whose their parents are doctors and lawyers, and they're AIG everything, and they've never made below a 5 on a test, right? And so the dynamic is just kind of strange. You know what I mean? I feel like there's more of a commonality among the people here. Like, we're all kind of from the holler, and we take care of each other.
You know, you take care of your own.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, I don't want people to think like, I think Wayne's is a horrible place or anything like that. We loved living out there. There's a lot of, we miss some of the conveniences and stuff like that. But to us, the community, the work environment, the kids, oh man, the kids are completely different here. Completely different. When me and Megan, it was our first week at Mitchell, and we had lunch duty together. And so she was out in the circle and I was in the cafeteria. And when we got done, so there's probably 200, 250, 200 kids in those areas, right? And there's just us two. And when we got done with that first duty, we came back together and like, "Can you believe that just happened?" We're like, we just had all these kids.
Nothing happened.
Nobody's face got broke. Nobody's car's on fire. Nobody's getting like in the auditorium. Like, this is stuff that happened where we were at, right? And we're like, what is going on? But then you look at how they operate, and you know, every single day we have a moment of silence, and every single day we say the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's just it's just, we're just blessed to be back here.
Well, really. Yeah, and I often wonder if it's not even just just the things, it's just the sense that those saying the Pledge of Allegiance, doing those things may not seem like big things, but it contributes to a sense of like being proud of
your community,
and like being together and all that stuff.
Yeah, we're in this. We're all in this together.
Relics of those types of things that all bound us together at one point.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Whereas you get into the cities, New York is a perfect example. You go up to New York, you walk down the street, you'll see 10,000 people in an hour, and not a single one of them noticed you.
Right.
They're just walking with their headphones on, and they're just like, so you're sharing space with all these people, but they're completely disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a weird dynamic when you have a small town like this that's insulated from some of the more progressive politics and things like that, and it results in rural America, small town community, and we love it. We absolutely love it.
Well, I'm glad you're here to help us keep it.
Absolutely, yeah.
If that's possible.
If that's possible, yeah. We got to keep them people from coming in and buying up all the land, man.
Well, the good thing about it is, I told Josh this several times. I build houses for people that are not from here all the time. I'll be honest with you, the vast, I would say, 99.9% of the people I build homes for around here, it's with intention to live here at some point, and there's a reason, and they know why.
Yeah.
They're very well aware of why,
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's a good indicator of stuff.
It always shocks me when you find these people and they're like, we're from Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's like, how did you find Mitchell County? How did you find Bakersfield?
It's always a weird story, that's for sure. We started out asking people that exact thing. How in the world did you end up here?
Like, you got people out there buying up property in like Beuladine and stuff, like out in the boonies. Mm-hmm. And like, how did you just happen upon this? Like, oh, well, I used to come here when I was 12 with my great grandma and grandpa, and I just remembered it, and we decided to take a trip, and we took a trip, and we loved it, and so we decided to move here.
Same reason you did it to Alaska?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Same exact reason.
What a story, Andy. We got to wrap this up.
Yep.
Andy.
What's up?
Marine. Educator. Jack of all trades.
Yeah, master of none.
Getting ready to be a citizen of Alaska sometime in the future.
Maybe. It's a definite possibility.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely love it.
This is awesome. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was.
Love that. This was a good one.
It was a good one. Before we go, I want to have one final thought.
Sure.
Going back to the divide between the right and the left. Team A, Camp B, Camp Red, Camp Blue, whatever side. Both camps, you need each other.
Yeah.
You need each other. Camp Red is important because it preserves traditions, it preserves institutions. As much as I hate to say that, because I do believe they are corrupt to their core, I'm not anti-institution. Team Blue is needed because without Team Blue, we would stagnate. We would have nothing to push us into progress.
Absolutely.
And we do need progress. We need progress. So the progressives and the conservatives need each other.
We're a balancing act.
It is a balancing act, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do better. Do better.
I think we can.
And I'll do better. I probably won't. But no, but we do. We both sides need each other. You're absolutely right. It is
we need each other, Josh.
We do. I love you, Chase.
Love you too, buddy.
Andy, thank you so much.
Love you, Andy.
Thank you, guys. This has been a blast.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yeah.
We need to get Megan to come on, too.
Yeah.
Yes. We need to do that.
Yeah.
Next time.
She'll be nervous. She'll be super nervous.
Oh, that's all right. We had Robert Bailey in here last week, and he was nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
International business magnate, Robert Bailey,
On our little podcast.
former corporation CEO. Nervous as he could be a little bit in the
Not
front.
kidding.
Noah, thanks for producing for us.
Yes, sir.
No, you the man.
Of course.
All right, guys. Thanks. See ya.